Hey, where's the intro? Yes. I am Ondo. I am your host. You gotta quit fucking around. As far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing.
A way to sort of cause trouble.
Welcome to the Undergang Armchair.
Bring it.
Yes, alright, welcome back to episode 30. We are excited. How about that new intro, huh? There's really no way we can follow up with that sort of energy. But, we realize that it's maybe a little intense. It doesn't have much to do with the art world, but we like it. And we're gonna go ahead and do it because we like it. And, it sounds maybe like we're gonna interview Jay-Z afterwards or some shit, but, I'd interview Jay-Z. I could ask him about his Basquiat paintings. We realize that trap music and art don't often go hand in hand, but we are here to unite, not to divide. The show is growing. We're getting better. We're feeling more and more excited every day. Shit is happening. It's just an exciting time. After you've got 30 episodes under your belt, you feel like you kind of know what's going on, even though we're learning new stuff every time. Kind of feel like you know how to, conduct an interview or, get a hold of people for the show, all that sort of stuff. There's a long ways to go for sure, but we are on the way, and that is a really good feeling. My ankle's the size of a soccer ball, but I'll tell you guys about that after the talk. We have a great guest in the show today, Thomas Fleur-Quinn, the founder and chief of Distortion Festival. It's a big outdoor culture and music event in Copenhagen. It happens every year. It's kind of a city dividing or unifying thing, depending on how you look at it. For those of you who don't live in Copenhagen, it's big. There is a lot of people. In 2011, it's been growing organically, but in 2011, there was 90,000 people in the streets of Copenhagen partying, listening to music, dancing, chilling. It's definitely got kind of an intense party vibe, but it's also, they have a big long table in the neighborhoods where they do it, where people can eat dinner together. Hundreds of people eating dinner together at this table. And obviously the initiative, the effort is to try to bring people together. And Thomas will say himself, it's a celebration of the city. I personally have had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I'm a lot more convinced now. I didn't realize what it was the first year I was here. It just happened, and I just thought it was some sort of crazy rave party. But after talking to Thomas, I've really realized that it is a labor of love, and it is a gesture towards the city. And, it's decisive. Some people really don't like it and think it's a goddamn mess. And it is a goddamn mess, but it's kind of a beautiful mess. And people really kind of trash. They leave their trash everywhere, but as long as you have the cleanup crews, that works. It really divides people in the city, but the city itself, the county supports it. They're for it. And I think in the long run, it is a good thing. It's, it brings people outside and together, and it's not just the music. There are other events as well. There's one for children. They even have one where they're trying to engage seniors. It's not just rave party, but rave party is obviously the most visible part of it. So I've warmed up to the idea. I like Distortion, and the great thing about releasing this today is the first day of Distortion here in Copenhagen. It starts in Nørrebro, in my neighborhood. So it's very timely that we're releasing this interview. And every year it's a big question. What's going to happen this year? How's it going to be? They've had to scale back the parties in the city center. They are sticking to the neighborhoods, and then they've kind of introduced a paid model. Thomas will talk about this, but there was problems with financing the whole event. They had way bigger plans, and dreams than they had money for. So they're trying to change it now. So you buy an armband for 100 kroners, about $20, and then you can go to these events. And I just want to say, today being the day that this event jumps off, go and buy an armband, because they are working their asses off to bring this to you. They're doing it for love because they care. And I think they do a really good job. So, this isn't just a free party. People bleed for this party, So my suggestion is $20 is not a lot to give to take part in this cultural event in this fair city. And really, any project which is a project of the heart and of passion is beautiful to some degree, I think this podcast is kind of like Distortion. You start somewhere and you just keep building and building and building. And if you put enough heart into it, you can get amazing places. So that's it. Enjoy the talk with Thomas and enjoy Distortion starting today. Thomas, hi. How you doing?
Hello.
You got everything under control?
Yeah, actually everything is under control now, 5 days before the D-Day.
Yeah. It must be a pretty intense week, though.
That's okay. We've got enough people and enough money to make it happen, which hasn't always been the case.
Right. Well, the festival has been going on for how many years now?
16 years, but it's been actually a proper project only for 1 year. When I say that, it's because we never had the actual financial or physical ability to do what we had set to do.
So what's the difference now? What happened?
No, well, we've got enough money.
Where'd the money come from? How did that work?
No, it took 15 years to build up the company.
Okay, just to get everything kind of streamlined and functioning properly. Yeah, streamline. I don't know if that's the word, but actually, but having enough people and knowing what we are doing and how and planning proper semi-professional planning has never happened until 2013. Wow.
Which means we were in a state of war and frenzy, which was fun. And which was part of the idea. Because originally the idea was to make a non-professional, private type, giant backyard grill party.
Right. It started as kind of a pirate party thing.
Yeah. The word pirate is somehow not right, even though you can use it if you want. But the point is that it was a private backyard grill party. Just 6 of them every day. And every day in a new part of town.
And this was just like a network of friends and people? Or
exactly. What? So the idea has never been, hey, let's make this pirate party. It's just we had events and receptions and dinners and bus events and theater shows. And we just didn't really ask for permission, but we were like 200 people at each event.
So, but the idea was that there was some sort of public element of it. It was in public space and it was...
Yeah, the idea was,
yes,
exactly. The idea was to use the city and to gather the people who had fun projects in Copenhagen and make a Copenhagen festival where the theme was Copenhagen.
Right.
And then while doing this, break as many boundaries as possible, but not on a kind of destructive fuck the law way, but just more on a creative and spatial, and also with time, because all the programs, if you look at the program of Distortion until 2007, I think it's linear. It's like every day, every hour, there's an event, and the concept of Distortion is that people walk through. So at 4 o'clock, there's this reception in this shop, and at 5 o'clock, it's this theater happening in this area, and then at 7 o'clock there's a bus show, and then at 8 o'clock there's a dinner. And so the idea was to guide people through and take the flock and through a ultra restless and relentless discovery of Copenhagen.
Right, and kind of an interaction with the city itself.
Yeah, interaction with the city, but it was kind of a travel. There was always this idea of travel and going from one spot to the next and breaking with the static formats that culture usually has for concerts or theater or whatever.
Right.
Like this idea of staying in the same place for 4 hours, that's what we went against.
Right.
Somehow.
Right.
Or 6 hours or whatever. And so And then, of course, spreading it over 5 days and using the night and doing after parties, that's the kind of techno rave nerd dream.
Right. Well, I mean, music has always been kind of a big part of it, hasn't it?
Originally, there was hardly any kind of music, actually. Like, it was more performance but then, of course, there was this DJ club culture element, for the final party on the Saturday.
Right.
But the 5 days or 4 days before the final party were originally, an art gallery having a reception and several performances.
Okay.
But of course, many of them had music, I guess. It's true. But
it wasn't just centered around DJ stand, beer, public space, go. It was more interactive than that.
Yeah, very interactive and very varied. Like we had all the new medias, like the newly established medias, both internet and Lifetime magazines. They were hosting one event each.
Right. Okay.
Some of them were like fashion magazines. Some of them were like more art magazines, or Cover magazine, or AOK. AOK, a guide about Copenhagen. They launched with events at Distortion, and Politikken i Byen, they had quiz events, for example.
Right.
So they were part of the. Then you arrive in Idealbar in Vega, and there would be a quiz.
Well, I mean, Copenhagen was very different when you guys started, too, wasn't it? I mean, I've been here for 8 years, and I've seen a pretty hefty change just in those 8 years. I don't mean just in Distortion, I mean in the city itself.
Yeah. Distortion, the Copenhagen did change a lot.
Yeah.
In the past few years. Become much more urban and much more happening.
Right.
Much more international
Cafes,
city.
street life,
Very much. And also this idea of having your own sound system and putting it out in the streets.
That's really taken off.
That's really taken off, and that was totally new when, only we did it back then.
Right. Well, I mean, I kind of want to talk, I guess I really want to go back to the beginning. You are born and raised in France. What part of France?
Paris.
And just in the city center?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
in the 14th, 15th.
Wow. And so what on earth brought you to Copenhagen, I guess is the big question.
Yeah, I mean, I came here to start the Copenhagen Post, which is an English language weekly newspaper.
Well, okay, so you were in France, and how did you get involved with the Copenhagen Post?
I had some family here. My mother was Danish.
Okay.
She moved to France when she was 16 and has been living in France since she was 16. And we have actually very little family here in Denmark.
Okay, but you had a connection.
But I had a connection, and so some of this family were English, and they were starting father and son were starting an English newspaper, and they asked me to come and help.
Right.
So I was the third wheel in this newspaper venture.
Right. And that's still going. That's great. You're not involved anymore?
No, I quit in 2008 because I was getting busy with Distortion.
Right.
Distortion started the same year as we launched the newspaper in February 98, and the first Distortion party was in September 98, and it was actually a promotional event for the Guide. I was the editor for the Guide section of the newspaper.
Okay, I got you.
And so that's how it started. So I came to start a Guide, or to be part of a newspaper, and I became the editor of the Guide section. So I've always been a strong Copenhagen enthusiast.
Man, well, I love that paper. It's really well made, actually.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I put a lot of sweat in it in those 10 years from 98 till 2008.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I was looking at your website, and you started Copenhagen Post, you started Distortion, you have a consulting business now, or are part of a consulting business?
Yeah, but in the past 2 or 3 years I've been doing mainly Distortion.
Okay.
But I have on the side a company that can still do events for customers.
And you were involved with other things too, as well as you have 4 children. So you're making us look pretty bad out here.
Yeah,
I only do 3 things, and I've got no kids. So, I just think it's pretty incredible the amount of energy you have for doing this stuff. I don't want to say where do you find it in yourself, because it's not a matter of that, but what is the interest that drives you to be involved in so many of these projects?
Yeah, I don't know, but I would say I've been a very big enthusiast about Copenhagen generally. And so
did you feel that way from the beginning?
Yeah, because I had come here on holiday to visit my family here in Copenhagen, when we moved here, when I moved here alone to start the Copenhagen Post. Writing the guide, I really fast became fascinated about this mixture of small, local, unpretentious city and then cool international city. Right. I really thought that this was quite unique and much more easy to approach than city like Paris, where I come from, or London, which I thought was really a kind of big, harsh, hustler city.
They're tough. They're tough.
Yeah, really tough, and it's not nice. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's it is important to be nice, and Copenhagen was just nice.
You mean like on a personal level to people you meet people on the street? Or?
Yeah, I know the word nice is also a little bit shit, but yeah, I mean Copenhagen is just a good, easy city which is not boring, it's unpretentious and it's accessible and it's easy and it's fun. Or whatever. The point is, I just loved Copenhagen, and then I was really spending a lot of energy with that newspaper. I mean, really an immense amount of energy I spent writing this guide, and then things got out of that initial energy from the Copenhagen Post came the energy to make. I mean, Distortion came out of this energy and this love and this passion for Copenhagen that I developed from writing a weekly 16 pages. Well, 16 pages every week.
Jesus Christ.
For that's 10 years. I'm pretty sure that no one in the history of Copenhagen has ever written so much about Copenhagen as I have.
Sure that's illegal.
I got a PhD.
Union.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I used to work 50 hours by Thursday.
Wow.
And then print the newspaper and distribute it, because we were poor, young entrepreneurs starting a newspaper. So I was actually one of the editors and the distributor of the actual physically driving around distributing the newspaper all around.
Wow.
And that's quite hard when you've been working for 50 hours in 3 days or 4 days.
Well, I think it kind of speaks to what kind of city Copenhagen is. I mean, you mentioned earlier about being nice, and I heard someone talking about New York the other day, and they were like, I'm not one of those people who likes New York because I'm smart enough to know when a city's trying to kill you. Yeah. And there's just that kind of like whether a place is actually conductive to human life or not. In a weird way.
Yeah.
And this, every episode of this show has a theme, and I was thinking about discussing just like the public-private divide and what urban culture really is. And that's clearly what you're involved in. And I think Copenhagen's very conducive to that sort of thing. They are open to people proposing new ideas. I mean, not only did you start having these events, but the city was helpful. I mean, I assume at a certain point.
I mean, one of the turning points in the history of Distortion was maybe after 4 or 5 years when these kind of improvised events and receptions for like 100-200 people started to become slightly bigger with maybe 400 or 500 people.
Yeah.
And so, still no allowance authorization, but who cares about 400 people having drinks in the street in front of a gallery or a shop or a cafe?
Right.
It's pretty much like a birthday party with 200 or 300 people. And it had been like that for several years. But then around 2004, 5, 6, some of these parties had like 300-400 people having fun with music outdoors. And it started to look like a more real pirate party than
like
just
an event.
Yeah. And then the police came and saw this and, just driving around on patrol, not because, and they say, hey, but what is this and stuff? And so we tell them, hey, well, it's a thing we do every year, blah, blah. And then they say, hey, listen, you look like some nice people and you're just having a good time. Why don't we agree that you shut down at 1? And they say this to us at like 11 or midnight. Mm-hmm. And the point is that this idea that the police could on the spot say, hey, let's just let them do this and make a deal with them. And
that's actually really wild if you think about big cities.
Yeah. And so the flexibility and the ease of saying, hey, listen, let's just find a way to, not create trouble and maybe they were afraid that we were actually these anti-capitalist, fuck the system.
Smashing windows at
Yeah,
some point.
well, there was none of that really, but the point is that maybe they were afraid of that.
Right.
So maybe I'm making a poetic philosophy out of the police, where in fact it was fear. But
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't come and just start, throwing you guys out of there.
Yeah,
They saw.
but that's the first thing was the police on the street, and then when we started working with the commune, like the authorities, the officials of Copenhagen City Council, in 2007 and 8, it was also very easy to get the allowance when we started asking for it.
So they didn't put up a fight. They just said, "Hey, great idea. Let's do this."
Yeah. That's how it happened. But the point is that we had been doing it for many years before, and we were kind of almost unstoppable. And also there was a clear "We love Copenhagen" kind of message. So it was very easy for the police and the authorities, both because the message was so positive and pro-Copenhagen, also because we were kind of clean. I mean, we didn't smash things and we tried to clean up after ourselves, etc. And also because we were almost unstoppable. So there was only reason for them to say, "Hey, let's try to make this work." And then it went really, really fast after 2007 when we started a collab, or what's it called, with the authorities, and things were loud and official. And it wasn't just this kind of weird underground pub crawl, but this serious thing.
Was this did the idea of what it has become, was that organic, or did that happen? Like, did you have a plan? Did you at a certain point think, we're doing something here? We got to.
It happened organically, but I always had from the first year the dream of having it the way it is now, and which means a real total, almost hostile, what is called takeover. The hostile takeover of the city, but not hostile in that sense. An aggressive declaration of love instead of a declaration of war. And we always been playing with this aesthetics of invasion and militaries. We use tanks as well sometimes, and so it's part of the idea to make this almost aggressive declaration, but in the name of something positive. And so it took many years to really pick up, but the idea has always been to also the first years, for many years, the early years, I was disappointed when I saw Distortion, how, you were biking through the city and you couldn't feel Distortion. And it was going on, it was those 5 days where the festival was going on. And you'd walk down the walking street and you'd walk in some areas not far from where the events were happening, but you wouldn't actually feel them. It'd be like totally, and of course it was like that because there was only like 200 or 300 people involved in it at all. But the point is that I felt disappointed at the fact that it wasn't 300,000. I wanted to really take the city and flip it around, the whole city.
Now, why? What is it about that attracts you?
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm a greedy, power-seeking motherfucker, but or a egomaniac.
Well, I'm sure you're not thinking that to yourself. You must have your own reasons.
No, but because I think it's fun, and because I want to, maybe I want to mark myself. Maybe it's kind of a dog pissing on his territory. I mean, I'm trying to be negative now, but from my point of view, it was just I wanted this to explode and be a roller coaster of fun. And I didn't want anybody to be able to escape from it.
I don't think that's
because I knew that my message was full of love, man.
Right. Well, I don't think that's necessarily an egotistical point of view. You were clearly being negative there.
No, but I mean, if you're trying to look at it in a kind of very neutral and cynical point of view, it's possible that it was just the desire of power and of like the graffiti artist making his tag who wants to make the biggest tag in town, or the dog pissing on his territory, and which is a kind of natural. But I'm not saying this on a negative kind of thing. I'm just saying as a kind of primitive.
Right. But I mean, all great things have that. All people who do amazing things have to have some sort of drive to that degree. Either it's negative or positive, but good things happen from it.
But I've been thinking about it for many years, and the only thing is pride about and love for Copenhagen and the Danish model, and with all the shit that I feel every day about the Danish mentality and smallness and all the negative stuff that can come out of this depressing city, I actually cannot stop being in awe of it and of the Danish system and of the, how it's an almost egalitarian society. Like the egalitarian leftist dream is happening in Copenhagen.
In a way,
and that's the real message that, that's the reason of the awe from my side. And I'm not sure I am a convinced leftist or egalitarian. It's just that it's almost for real here, and that's unique. And it's got plenty of negative things, but it's also totally amazing and unique.
It strikes me as a very unique city, actually. It's small and it doesn't attract a lot of attention, although for its size it does. I mean, Copenhagen does, considering that it's such a tiny, I mean, if you think of a town in France of equal size, and how much attention Copenhagen gets.
Copenhagen probably gets more attention than Lyon, for example, which is the same size. But, one could argue that Copenhagen is now at level with, I mean, I have often said this, that now in the past 10 years, Copenhagen has gone from a city like, smaller city, unknown city, to be next to Amsterdam and Barcelona in the kind of scope of how it's known and how it's interesting and how it's profiled throughout Europe and the world.
Right.
And like you say, I mean, Barcelona and Amsterdam are quite much bigger than Copenhagen.
Right.
And so maybe it's getting some attention compared to its size. Right. But back then it really wasn't. And like 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
And really that was also part of the motivation for the Copenhagen Post and for Distortion to say, hey, listen, I've always been talking to international audience with both projects. Of course, the Copenhagen Post is in English. So,
right.
But I've always been, even though I'm half Danish through my mother, I feel totally French and I've always had the angle of showing Copenhagen to the world.
Right. Well, that's the same for me. I'm half Danish. My mother's American. My dad's Danish. But I guess it seems like you mentioned you speak to an international audience, and that must be in a way an effort to expand the boundaries of Copenhagen, what Copenhagen is. And I guess this project, like you say, it's part of taking over the city and just expanding what is possible in the city.
Exactly. I mean, people often ask me, how did these street parties happen, and how did Distortion develop, and how did you get the ideas? And the answer to that is because it's possible.
Right.
I mean, because we've been pushing in all directions, and I've always tried to push all the boundaries that I could find and make it more electric and having a good. I mean, I had it in my blood to make events that were special and that had a special vibe. And from the beginning, Distortion was, even the smallest event with 40 people in a boat, there was a very special energetic vibe and feeling of improvisation and, getting a megaphone and say, hey, okay, now we all go out and, let's sail to the Little Mermaid, improvise and having this energetic impulse and transmitting that to the people. But really, the way it became huge is because it was possible, because the city let us do it, and we went further, and we pushed harder, and we pushed further. And when the police, now we play with the police. I mean, because we've just been pushing further and further and further, and the fact that the city is letting us doing it is part of the magic, and it's the proof that we were right when we started.
Certainly, and it's also the proof that you can change what urban space is. You can have an effect on that. Because I feel like Copenhagen's really blooming, and you guys, it may be thanks to you guys for starting this, but the idea of public space, what it means, who owns it, who gets to use it, these things are being played with right now.
Yeah, it's a very, very modern theme.
Sure, and the idea, there's a lot of talk about urban design and what does it mean to live in a city. Who is a city for? Is a city for cars? Is it for bikes? Is it for public space, inside, outside? All these questions. Do you have any idea about wanting to work with urban space outside of the context of distortion?
Yeah, not in that sense. And when it comes to the theory of urban space, and when I have to, because I've been invited to several talks to discuss these kind of themes, and I'm really bad at it. I have no idea what the long-term effect or the theoretic effects of distortion is. And I don't get into that at all.
It's just not your wheelhouse.
No, and I think it's boring because also city planning takes like so many years, and it just simply doesn't make sense. Give me a street and I'll make it happen. And
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly something to be said for doing things without academia, because academia in a way just completely strangles any joy or spontaneity out of anything.
Yeah, I hate academia. I mean, I'm against academia.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I would never do what I do and never have achieved what I've achieved if I took any interest in anything theoretic.
So, Copenhagen is overeducated, true or false?
No, I don't know. I mean, the leftist intellectual spirit certainly is heavy on the city, and they certainly have a by the book genetic code. But maybe passive. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's one of the most obvious as negative aspects of Denmark and Copenhagen is this passivity. Yeah. But at the same time, the worst is also the best, because this idea of, at least with culture, you go to Sweden and you've got all these lifestyle magazines about who are really updated about the hipster music and blah, blah, blah. And so they really follow that in Sweden, and they can seem very responsive to new trends, for example. And in Denmark, they don't. In Denmark, they don't follow the new trends, and when you work with what I work with, it can feel really depressing that some really cool band comes and, like Hot Chip attracted 300 people first time we made them play here in 2005. And
I should have gone to that.
Yeah. And these kind of things. But actually not being responsive to trends is also cool. And is also this kind of, whatever, relax. We don't care about these fucking new trends.
It creates an open space.
It's not that it creates, I'm not sure it creates an open space. It's just this kind of, this passive, nonchalant attitude is actually in the end also quite cool, because jumping on new trends is bullshit as well. Hopping on the hot new thing all the time, like they do in Stockholm and Oslo, is, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
It's, I would say that's the negative stuff about Copenhagen, and Danes can sometimes also be positive.
Yeah. One of the things I struggle a lot with is Danes and alcohol. And I'm no, teetotaler myself. I like to drink. I like to party and all that. But it seems to me like sometimes it's just a little on the destructive side. And I've flip-flopped a lot on distortion, if I'm to be completely honest, because in one way I think it's incredible, and all the things you're saying about urban space and spontaneity and in a way reclaiming the streets, all this I think is wonderful. But on the other hand, I think, oh good, another occasion for Danes to drink. Yeah. And that would be the negative side. I definitely have a mixed feeling about it.
Yeah. If it was just an opportunity to drink and have a good time, but it's true what you're saying. They're really bad at drinking, Danes. And in France, people don't get so plastered at all. They drink more in France, or as much in France as they do here, but they drink with what's it called?
With their meals at lunch, at dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, with moderation.
With moderation.
Yeah.
And also in Germany, people don't get, also with drug intake and stuff. The Germans are very responsible and sensible with the MDMA culture and all that. It's fun to see how the Germans really pick chemicals like they were fruits. No, but Danes are no good at I mean, just
I think it's getting better.
I think it's getting better, and I think that actually Danes are getting more critical and more responsive to modern issues, also like culture and blogs, etc. Right. And also, I think that it's becoming less cool to be super drunk than it maybe was 10 years ago. But there is this, of course, in all societies, like there is also in England, a lot of inhibition about expressing your feelings.
Right.
That in the weekend you let loose, and so, yeah. That happens a lot, both in England and in Denmark.
Well, I should say it's no fault of distortions. That's something about Denmark that has nothing to do with the event in reality. I actually photographed the event extensively in 2011, and you guys were so kind as to give me a pass on the last night in Kulbyen. So I photographed in the pool and all around when you guys had that event. And it really actually helped me understand what was happening. Because I live in one of the areas in Nørrebro, which is front and center on Blågårdsplads, front and center, what happens. And I watched from my window the first year. And I thought, what the fuck is this? And then the second year I went out in the sun and I went to all the different areas and I said, oh, I see. This isn't just a rave. This is all sorts of things. And there's the kids distortion. I went to the painting where they painted the long wall, the Guinness Book of World Records for the most people making an artwork at once event. That was through you guys too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was one of the, what one has to understand with Distortion is that we do the night events and the final party. That's our, it's not just ours because one of the main things we do is coordinate all the others.
Right.
But what we deliver specifically as events is the final party and the night parties every night from 10 o'clock. And then every day we have 2 musical stages.
Right.
And then we have the children's distortion and the dinner, the long table dinner in the streets. And we have distortion for the old people. And we have, these kind of very non-ravey kind of activities.
Right.
But then every day we coordinate anybody and also try to motivate locals to do their own street parties. Right. And so when you come to Distortion, you've got like 30, 40 street parties, 35, 40 different streets with each their own party. And we host maybe 4 or 5 of those. And the rest is shops, galleries. We've kept that from the old days where I used to handpick 4 venues in each neighborhood. One gallery, one cafe, one bar, one whatever magazine, and then and so we've kept that idea to in the old days I used to handpick 3 or 4. Now the idea became around 2007-8. Anybody who wants to use the streets, go ahead, baby. As long as your intention is to show what you love about your city and about what you do and your project, then you're on.
Do it.
And so, yeah, like magazine, because I was in the newspaper business in the beginning, I was trying to get all my colleagues, who were starting new media, to get them to show their event. And they were Cover Magazine, Sound Venue Magazine, all these people who started new medias, AOK, like I said before, in the early stage, were part of the Distortion. And so anybody who had something with passion about and a relationship to Copenhagen, it's them who do the street parties. And so now you've got 45 street parties, and some people do a superhero party, and some people do an art event, and some people do a stand-up, and some people do gospel choir, and some people are really good at what they do, and some people are really bad at what they do. And so the point is that in the very Copenhagen spirit, democratic, egalitarian, we respect you just because you want to do it, rather than a qualitative, elitarian,
curated,
exactly. Right. And so that's what the street parties are about, and also the randomness and the diversity that comes out of that attitude has been really, really good to us. And that was my personal as a director or as an artistic director. That was the effect I was looking for, to have this impulsive, anything can happen feel.
Well, it seems like at this point, Distortion is its own, it lives on its own in a way. Clearly, you have to have people designing and doing it, but like you say, you only do 4 events, and then there's 40 other events happening that are outside of your control in a way. Does it become too hard sometimes? Do you want to quit ever?
No, I mean, what's hard is the money. Money.
I mean, every year in the newspaper they talk about what did the cleanup cost? How much did the event cost? Look at these resources.
Yeah, but the point, it is true that we never had the money to do what we are doing, and so there's always been this kind of we couldn't afford to do it. It was too expensive. We couldn't do it, and
but you did it anyway somehow.
Yeah, but we did it because I was fighting like a dog, and so the point is that it's been quite hard with the money. That's been a long fight. And now it's also today, 5 days before the event, it's the only thing that stresses me, and it stresses me beyond, extremely, because I have 9 employees whose lives depend on the money that we have to, they have a job, and also the fact that this project is such a dear child that I don't want it to disappear just because of money. And it won't. The point is that we won't let money get in the way, but it's clearly the only problem that we have nowadays, only since last year. And so, but I guess anybody, whether they make pancakes or art or telephones or whatever they do, the problem is always money. So I guess it's
it's just a reality of life.
Just a reality.
In a way. But it must be, you've been doing it for so many years now. There must be points where you just kind of look at it and you go, holy fuck, what is going on here?
Yeah, but in 2011 and 12, but that's okay because I've gotten, I don't know. No, it's okay. We have the energy to keep going. And, now it's just a job for a project that we actually love, but it's about becoming professional, and it's only become that for the past few years. Until maybe 2010, 11, it was all about expressing and showing Copenhagen, and really a passionate project about breaking boundaries and showing Copenhagen. And now it's become a job because there's been money. And so now the responsibility is somehow much greater, but it's also much, much, much easier physically.
Well, you guys are also a non-profit organization. This is, I think that bears to mention. You've got people, they get a wage because they work their asses off, but it is a non-profit organization. You guys aren't sitting on the money afterwards. I assume all money that comes in goes out to Distortion again.
Yeah, but there isn't really been a profit. So, but yes, the point is that the money that is made, when some money will be made, it will have to be used on Distortion or on supporting initiatives that are Distortion-like. Either starting new ones or supporting existing ones that have the kind of same edge or profile. But until now, all the money has been spent into structuring the event, and last year we made a big profit of 700,000 or 800,000 kroners, but that went to paying old debt.
That's the right way to do it, though. You don't need to make that much, but enough to keep it going.
Yeah. It's been a total entrepreneurship for 15 years.
Was it 2011? Was that the year where everything got really crazy?
Yeah.
Tell me about that year. Was that tough? Because it must have been pretty stressful to be in the command chair when shit was going down.
We had 8, 9, 10. From 2007 until 2010, we'd been like huge record year every year in a row.
Right.
3 years in a row.
80, 90,000 people or something like that?
No, not at all. Not at all. It went from 1,000 to 4,000, which was amazing.
Right.
That was around 2008 that we suddenly had 3, 4, 5,000 people in the street at the same time. That was huge for us. First time we had 1,000 people at one party in the street was in 2007.
Wow.
Until then, it had all been these kind of small. I mean, in total we had, of course, much more than 1,000 people.
Sure.
But it was like 400 people there, 300 people there, 400 people there, and so it was all very, very small. I keep on using this example of the grill party. It's been cool grill parties, 5 of them every day.
Right.
So in total 2,000 or 3,000 people, but spread on 500.
Right.
And the first time ever we have over 1,000 people is in 2007. 2008 we had like in Studi Israel maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people, which to us felt like a huge amount of people. And then 2009 we got up to 8,000 or 10,000. I mean, we just simply could not believe how many people that was.
Right.
But it was growing still in a kind of organic way, and we could actually manage to clean up after those people.
Right,
because cleaning up after 10,000 people, 20 guys with a broom can clean up a 10,000 man street party.
Right.
In 3 hours.
Right.
That's manageable.
Right.
And then 2010 became even bigger. And there we started to have problems with the cleaning. And there we were like between 15 and 20,000 people in the streets in 2010.
Is that total or is that like per event?
That's for one main street party, like you have Inghelplatz and the whole of Istergade were filled with people and stuff. And so that we could still clean up with our team of 20, 30 volunteers cleaning up with brooms.
Right.
And then in 2011, the weather wasn't fantastic in 2010. And then 1 week before 2011, we look at the weather report, and it was like 30 degrees, total sun, not one cloud.
Wind, nothing.
And that's the Monday, 2 days before the distortion starts. And I thought, fuck, we're maybe going to get 25, 30,000 people. It's going to be complete chaos, because it was starting to be chaos in 2010.
Right.
And then it came like 60, 70, 80,000 people per day in 2011.
It was fucking insane.
That was total insanity. It was like a tsunami.
Yeah. No, I was downtown.
And we've been calling it a tsunami since then. I mean, because it was fear. It was like watching 500 elephants running toward you. It was this kind of feeling.
You guys weren't that far away from having like the crushed situation, like that tragedy that happened. I mean, I was downtown in 2011 and I got stuck in an intersection and it took me 45 minutes to get about 10 meters.
Yeah.
It was so intense. And the police did a good job of they turned off the music and they were like, guess what, guys? This is critical. We've got a situation here. And, it's very peaceful. Everyone's doing fine. Everyone's having a good time. But it was tight. There were so many people.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've been taking security very, very seriously since then.
Yeah.
And it's taken really since 2011 until today has been spent on managing this event.
Right. Learning how to deal with that.
And not going bankrupt, because actually 11 was also a catastrophe, because street parties,
the cleanup was millions.
Yeah. We were ready to clean up for 25,000. We really thought, wow.
Right.
We've upgraded. Now we can manage 25,000. But then 90,000 people showed up.
Right.
So the 11 was unbelievable, totally unbelievable. Also fun, but yeah, destructive, insane.
Yeah. Well, I remember all of a sudden there was the bathroom issue.
Yeah, what was that? Oh, yeah. Actually, I think it was in 2011 that on one of the 3 street party days, I think maybe Nørrebro maybe the first one in Nørrebro, the toilets didn't arrive. They arrived at 9 o'clock in the evening, which was like 6 hours late. But of course they couldn't get through. And yeah, so there was no toilets.
Right.
For 90,000 people.
Right.
Or whatever it was. I mean, nobody knows how to count.
Right.
But it was so that was chaos.
But it's I guess you can say nothing bad happened in the long run, and you certainly you learned how to deal with that sort of situation.
Yeah, we did, and also there has been always, and at that point there was only 100% good vibes about Distortion and about this kind of declaration of love to the city.
Right.
That vibe was really there. And so I could see how people took care of each other and were very responsible, and
Yeah, one of the things
there was no fight. There's no during this
That's what I was
there
about
was
to
no
say.
fight.
It blows my mind that nobody gets arrested, no one starts fighting, no one starts breaking anything. it's incredible that you can gather 90,000 people, a lot of whom are drinking a lot, and everyone's just having a great time.
Yeah. But at the Notting Hill Carnival, for example, they trash. I mean, a lot,
Right,
and
they fucking tear that place up.
Yeah, and there's fights and there's looting. I mean, and that's really what's amazing about Copenhagen. That there is no, there's no people aren't struggling.
People want to have a good time.
Yeah, and also there aren't any real struggle. I mean, that's why it's possible. Distortion is possible because Copenhagen is rich and because there aren't any poor people who are angry or frustrated. So it is a great story. It's a great story.
The only destructive thing I saw someone puncture the tires of a police van.
Yeah.
Distortion.
Yeah, but that's because that's this kind of Nørrebro, fuck the police.
Exactly.
Yeah. But fuck the police is fun when you're 17.
Sure.
That's life.
And it was just one guy.
Yeah.
Now, I have thought about one thing about this whole event, and it's a lot of energy, right? A lot of energy gets put into this. A lot of energy, both by the people who come and do it, and by the people who put it on. What would you say? And this is debate only. This isn't my criticism necessarily. What would you say to the idea that this energy could be used in another way to help the city in a different way? In a more, not more, but, let's say clean up Nordvest, have a day where everyone learns a little bit about immigrants and opens up to them, or, something like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, we're into making parties.
Right.
And, I mean, the point is that we want more parties to be less wild because having a good time and creating magic moments doesn't need to be mayhem, crowd surfing, randomness, energy, paradise. It can also, you can also reach, reach poetic moments and reach the, artistic magic. It can happen on more quiet ways and without being totally drunk. And so I would say that I'm working now creatively on shifting the focus of Distortion so that maybe only 50% of the festival is about this high energy, crowd surfing, randomness, chaos, fun.
Right.
And but I mean, maybe one could use the energy to, plant more flowers or help more elderly, but that's not what we're doing. We're making a city party, party about the city, and trying to, and also trying to create magic moments for people.
Right.
Sharing unique experiences and moments.
Right.
And that's what it's about. For me, actually, even more than celebrating Copenhagen. I mean, for me, I just want to create moments and be this kind of circus director and and give experiences to people. And I've just been lucky that Copenhagen has been a fantastic way of, the perfect platform to make it happen, and has been so responsive to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can answer, my answer to that question, if I was in your state, would be, we do what we do, and we show that it's possible to do a lot. So someone whose passion would be something else can see really how much can be done.
Yeah.
There is a lot of opportunity here. Has the city kind of generally been on your side, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, totally. I mean, we've been receiving huge funding as soon as we asked for it in 2008-9. It felt like it took a long time back then, but that's because I didn't know how I was going to pay the rent next month. So, but 2 years to create a huge long-term partnership with the city officials is very short. So it's been very, very, very responsive. And when we needed more money in 2012, after 11 and 12, which were kind of hard years financially, we got extra money very fast, and now it seems like the city and the politicians have understood the message, and they understand that they get it. The city gets it back, and that also we're in many ways doing everything that any city enthusiast and culture entrepreneur dreams of doing. I was at a meeting with the Frank Jensen, the mayor of Copenhagen, not so long ago, and in the panel of 20 cultural personalities, and they were discussing ideas of what to do with Copenhagen if we had to create new events, which kind of, how can one create some new things and not one idea that came out of 2-3 hours of discussion among 20 intelligent people from the arts and culture world, like theater directors and people who write books and the cultural academia of Copenhagen.
Indeed.
And none of the ideas that came up there were ideas that we were not already pursuing with Distortion with quite huge success, like, getting neighbors to meet each other and, all kinds of, any idea. And Distortion is not that special. It's just making it real. Yeah, it is, of course, very special. It's
totally I beg to differ. I would say it is special.
Yeah. But the ideas of Distortion are not so complex. That's what I mean.
True.
And we just managed to make happen what everybody dreams of make happening who works with arts and culture and social interactions. That's what I mean. So it's not that it is very, very special, but it's only special because it's actually happened to make all those dreams of social interaction real.
Right. Well, you guys do an amazing job with that. Do you want to be mayor? Is that what's next? Are you going to be Thomas Fluor Quinn, mayor of Copenhagen?
No, thank you. I just want to go on holiday. I just want to go on holiday and be proud of what I've done.
Well, I want to say thank you both for meeting with me, but also for creating a unique event for the city that I and we live in.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
All right, that was Thomas Fluor Quinn, and I'll tell you, that man has leadership written all over him. And obviously, you have to be, you have to really believe in what you're doing to put up that fight for that many years, and to keep doing this. So once again, go buy your armband, take part in another transformation of Distortion Festival. We put pictures up from the events. We have a link to their website. As far as I know, here in Copenhagen, you can buy the armbands all over 7-Eleven, etc., etc. And hopefully we're going to have some good weather. And, you don't have to drink too much. You can just sit in the sun and enjoy the music and enjoy the crowds and enjoy the people. And really that's what it comes down to. Enjoy the city. But isn't that nice? You can really tell when someone really, really cares about what they're doing. That's what's beautiful. When people engage with their work and they do it for the work, not for the money, not for themselves, for the project. Taking one for the team, fighting the good fight for the cause. And speaking of passion, I saw a great movie yesterday called The Punk Singer. You guys should check that out. It's a documentary about Kathleen Hanna. Perhaps you've heard of Bikini Kill or Le Tigre or any of those epic bands. Kathleen Hanna was the singer and leader of those groups. She is a force to be reckoned with, and it's a really well-made movie about her life and her projects, and it's a portrait of another person who's passionate about what she does. So, I'll put a link up to that too. The Punk Singer. Check it out. It's really good. And finally, I just want to tell you guys a little story. When you go to a party, which is like a Hollywood movie, it's just so picturesque and everything's so perfect, and you think, fuck, man, we're going to make it. We as people, it's going to be all right. We can do this. Well, I went to one of those parties on Saturday and it was great. It was by the harbor next to a houseboat. They had live music, beautiful summer evening, big wide open space, no neighbors to worry about or bother. Really good vibes, happy people. Hell, they even had pancakes. It was great. And then I got a little carried away and I decided to unicycle. So, although I can't say I unicycled, I can say I sat on it for a second and fell flat on my face, which was to be expected. That's fine. But I twisted my ankle on the way down. So now my ankle's the size of a football and it's all sorts of funny colors. And so I'm housebound. But that's okay. That's okay. I can work on this to bring it to you guys, right? But remember, when you're learning to unicycle, which I did once 15 years ago, you have to hold on to something to get started. You can't just jump up onto it without training. That is my life's wisdom for you guys today. Cool. All right. Thank you. Episode 30. We're excited. Got the new intro and outro music. Hope you guys like it. Please let us know what you think. Is it too intense? Does it sound like I'm about to go interview young Jeezy or what, you know? So please holler at us. Let us know what you think. This week's episode was brought to you by the Undergang Armchair once again. Intro and outro music by MGT Beats, kindly provided on a Creative Commons license. Thank you. You can check out a link to MGT Beats on our About page. Interstitial music today provided by Spencer Henslall. Thank you to him for making some music available for us. Check us out on the web, undergang.net. That's where we are. That's where we live. You can follow us on iTunes. You can follow us on Stitcher Radio. There's links to all of that on our website. And finally, come check us out on Twitter, The Undergang on Twitter. Clearly the best social media. No argument. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And remember, if you like the show, please tell a friend.